All right. So we are in the month of June 2025, and we are embarking on our Ask a Therapist for this month. Today's topic is going to be on summer care, self-care to be exact, but how to take care of your needs, what summer self-care can actually look like without needing a vacation, unless you do need a vacation. Raise your hand if you need a vacation. How to set boundaries when you're feeling stretched, practical ways to check in on your own needs, both physically, emotionally, and let's not forget mentally as well. And then permission to say no and prioritize you. So let's get the conversation started. I have both Frederica Wooten and Jess Harris here with me. We are all licensed professionals in the mental health world. And although the things that we will say um, are coming directly from us as counselors, we are also talking from our personal experiences. And so if you need a therapist, you should go get one, because our conversation here today is not to connect us into any type of therapeutic counseling relationship, but instead to just start the conversation and maybe give you some great things to think about, and to give us the opportunity to flesh out some of the conversations that we've had with ourselves or with others. So, getting going with that, my first wonder is, what does your self care look like for the summer? And is self care a bad word for you? Who'd like to jump in on that?
I can. I don't okay, so I don't think self-care is necessarily a bad word per se, but I think it's a difficult word.
Yeah.
Because of this like perception of what I feel like self-care has to look like, but I am learning that self-care can come in a variety of ways, such as like not overbooking my schedule.
Yeah. Saying no is oftentimes still saying yes. Like
Mhm.
I tell myself that all the time, that saying no to this is saying yes to my needs, saying yes to me having more time and clarity. I have historically been someone that needed to say yes so that I didn't hurt the other person's feelings, or so that I didn't appear lazy to myself primarily, but even to them. And to, because I wanted to do all the things. I felt like saying no was cutting an opportunity off. But I was driving myself nuts. Like I was on a hamster wheel all the time. And so saying no and being okay with it was giving me more yeses for me. So
My therapist, and I actually shared this with Frederica, she told me basically the same thing that you just said, like in a little bit different way, but she was like, saying yes to somebody else is saying no to my own needs. And so just because I may have an opening on my schedule doesn't mean that like I actually have free time, because like I do need to spend like time for myself and to like just take care of myself, whether that's, catching up on things or just resting or like even allowing myself to go be with friends. That like I don't have to have something booked every single day of the week. So
yeah.
So the self care word for me is more about what it has turned into, how familiar that word has come as a catch all phrase, and I have taken some time to think through what that word means for me, and it really kind of gets annoying. Like, well, tell me how you do that. And then it becomes, well, I'm gonna go and take myself out to eat, which is a way we can do care. But I started to highlight for me the care of myself or taking care with myself, because it actually is like, what do I need in this moment? How do I want to engage? How do I want to show up? And to me, that is more intentional with what I'm trying to do than actually be self care. And I think partly that's just because of the way that those words have been used over time. So now, the way that I'm choosing to frame the word actually helps give me more freedom to do it. Like, okay, are you taking care with you right now in this moment by saying yes to another thing? While your schedule does look open, is it? Or if I have more free time, am I using that free time in the way that it needs to be done? Are there actually some house things or some personal things or getting that closet organized that would actually be care for myself? Because every time I walk in there, I'm just like, you really need to organize this. And then I go down the list of why it's not organized and why it's neat. That's not care, right? That is, an internal battle. So, so yeah, so there is some things around those words for me that I'm working through. But also, I want to help other people kind of untether themselves to what maybe society or culture has told them that self-care is and make it more unique to them. Like if we're not a person who wants to go and get our nails done, then that may feel like they can never give themselves self-care. But
Yeah.
there are other ways.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know that it does look unique. There's
Hmm.
no cookie cutter way to take care of your needs, especially as it relates to anybody else. And so
Hmm.
I know for me, I've been trying to consider what roles does summer play in
Hmm.
my energy and how I care for myself when I consider the different hats that I wear. And so
Hmm.
like as a as a clinician and the varied schedule of my clients and their needs and trying to, make time for them as their life is looking different in the summer, then also considering what my household needs look like with children and my husband's
Hmm.
schedule and wanting to hopefully have some fun this summer too. And that's I sat down last night with myself to kind of map out some things that I want to do this week, but then big picture for June. And I had to go backwards in my mind to think about I was in a master class a couple years ago, and one of our tasks was to every month write down the tasks that you want to get done, but then all the big picture stuff. Like if life was going exactly the way I wanted it to go, what are the things that I want to say that I got done by the end of the month? And not those check off the list, mark off the list things, but the big high order things like I want to be able to have taken 2 days off for myself. Later, I'll plan what those 2 days might do, but or may encompass, but just again, big picture. I want 2 personal days that can bring joy and fun. I want to, increase clients by this much. Again, I have to figure out what that's going to look like and the action steps to it. But when I would do that in the past, I did that for a whole, 8, 10 months. I would do that every month. And it helped me to not just be blinded by the trees, but to be able to see the whole forest as well. And I felt more accomplished each month when I did that. And I try to do that both personally and professionally. I got to get back on it because
Hmm.
it really did help me to stay on a path that felt progressive versus feeling like I'm in quicksand. And every now and then, especially as I started realizing last month, it was like, May 10th or so. I was like, oh my goodness, school is about to be out. I don't know where my kids are going to go. I don't have a plan for this, that, and the third. And it was just because I wasn't looking big picture. And sometimes that can be overwhelming for
Mm,
us to see the big picture because it does require the branches to come down from it. But when I've noticed for myself, when I get in the habit of being able to look big and then build from it instead of trying to build to the big, it helps me.
mm,
Yeah. I
yeah.
wonder, like when it comes to caring for yourself, how do you what are some things that maybe you either have heard that other people have said have been helpful, or maybe even things for yourself that you've put into place that's been helpful?
Well, as you said, like the plannings, that has been a conversation that I've had with me for a while. And it does help, like even planning the week, looking at Sunday or whatever day. Typically, I start to look at Wednesdays and having a conversation with myself about what are some of the big goals as well as what do I need to do to help. As a faith-based counselor, Wednesdays is one of the days that I sit down and say, okay, God, what are we doing? What am I doing? Like, you're the leader, I'm the follower. I haven't been a very good follower, so I need the reminder of what I was supposed to do. And so that sometimes takes um, a lot of the pressure off to know that I'm not doing all these things and they're disconnected from me, disconnected from the ultimate purpose. I know that's another bit buzzword, like people wondering what are they supposed to do? Are they in their purpose? That's a big conversation that me and a lot of my clients have. And to help them see that a purpose is not a place or a date or a thing. It's more about the experience and how these experiences are lining up with you and how you're made, how you're wired, and how they come together. So, so sometimes that conversation around planning, purposeful planning, and then just allowing ourselves mm, to kind of, I guess it would be around forgiveness, to forgive ourselves from the things that we haven't done, that we wanted to do, and to get out of that self-sabotage loop that can come in and say, well, I haven't done this, so I can't do that. I'm hearing a lot of shame cycles coming up. And I think this summer could be a great reset to say, well, I didn't do it. And that part of me that keeps coming up to tell me, why didn't you? You should have, and what's wrong with you that you haven't, is a way that is trying to motivate you, but we need to switch that conversation that it's having, so that we can come from self and be empowered rather than be stuck in that old way of thinking.
Yeah.
I think for me, one way that I've incorporated self-care is I actually use an app called Finch. Uh,
Mhm.
and I get to raise a little baby penguin, and penguins are like my favorite animal ever and remind me of my grandpa.
Mm,
And each day, I have like daily goals, I have weekly goals, I have goals that are every 3 days kind of stuff. And at first, I would get kind of upset if I couldn't complete everything. But now I'm learning that if I don't get it done today, it's okay to wait until tomorrow and get it done. Um,
mm,
and that's really helped me be more kind to myself because it's I see that I want to do all these things and I have a big list, but then some days it's just not possible to get through it. But kind of being able to see the progress I made and kind of get the little rewards and get to buy the new outfits or whatever is just a fun motivation for me to want to keep it up, and it keeps up your logs how many days you do it in a row, you know, and so it's like right now I'm on day like 344. And so, but it also like at the end of the week helps me see like that I have accomplished stuff and that like I have done, you know, self-care, whether that's in the form of taking a shower or like grocery shopping or some of the things
Mm,
that are maybe more difficult for me at times, like by adding it as a goal in the Finch app, like it is a big motivator for me. And I actually recommend it to a lot of my teens just because like it to me it's like Tamagotchis that we had when I was little. You're trying to keep this little person alive and like I don't know. I really like it and I think it really helps with that motivation to not only provide the care I do for others when working, but also like provide that care for myself when I get
mm,
home.
Yes, being able to take what you are giving out is really important. I tell
mm,
myself that all the time, and every now and then it is a source of guilt if I'm being totally honest. You know, I was talking with another play therapy colleague about that sometimes when I'm in a play therapy session, I will, especially when it's going real well, and I'm like, "Ooh, Corey, you giving top tier play therapy vibes right here," you know. And then life tries to come in and yank that pat on the back by sometimes I hear, but you got two kids at home. Are you being, intentional with them? Have you slowed down to hear what's going on in their life? Have you slowed down to actually play with them and make, eye contact with them? And I mean, I definitely try to challenge that in the moment, because not to toot, but I really feel like I'm a great mom. I try my best, and that's the big thing there. I try to show up and give them all of me as best I can, and it's gonna look different. And I think that's really the important piece when it comes to being able to be honest with ourselves is, yeah, we can want this really perfect idea of what a situation will look like or how we show up or whatever, but we also have to have some realistic expectations. And I could say I have to adjust myself to have realistic expectations of, but what can I do? What is really doable in this moment for me? And I just can't show up as perfect Corey in every situation because she doesn't exist. And I am trying to get better at allow myself to be authentic in what I can
mm,
give, whatever limitations are connected to that, whatever realities are connected to that, and be at peace with what the result is. As long as
mm,
I can say that I'm trying and I'm trying the best that I can. Like I'm not cutting anybody short, starting with me, then that's where I can feel comfortable with.
mm, mhm.
It's hard though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's an honest place to be in with yourself. To say to you that sometimes what's leading is that perfect version, or trying to meet or match that perfect version, but to know that every version of you or every way that you show up um, is you, and being able to give grace, to be able to move through all those things and to know, okay, well, I'm pushing myself harder because I have this view or this desire to see it a certain way, and then stepping back to see maybe how you're already doing it. So,
Yeah.
so, mm,
Yeah, giving grace, giving and receiving grace is really important. My last wonder before we drop off, since we're doing, just a quick chat today, is how do you know when you need rest? When, a part of you, your body, your mind, or whatever needs rest? What signs do you notice within yourself that lets you know
mm,
it's time to slow down or it's time to do something different?
Well, sometimes my body just slows down on its own. It's like I don't want to go anywhere, don't want to do certain things. After having a full weekend, my body is like, you'll want to sit down right now. You want to go to bed a little earlier. Now, do I let myself do it? That's another thing. But the the recognition of like just as much as I check in with other people, and maybe even more so checking in with myself to recognize, okay, well, as I'm getting ready, I'm noticing there is maybe a difference in the way my hair feels or the way my skin feels. Okay, maybe that's telling me that my water intake has changed, has shifted, or this weekend I had some coffee and I hadn't had coffee in so long. And I was like, why am I now noticing my skin do this? I'm like, oh, it's the coffee. So even sometimes when doing something pleasurable, it can still have an effect. So that's one of the things I noticed. Another thing, just in conversation with friends, and they mentioned if they're reading a book or they did something, I'm like, okay, I haven't read a book in a long time outside of something I needed to read for work. But looking at some of those cues from my own body, some of the cues from conversations with, friends and even other professionals. So yeah, that's some of the ways I noticed.
Yeah.
One thing that like I've talked a lot about like in my own therapy is like learning those vulnerability factors. And so like checking in with myself, like did am I getting enough sleep? Am I eating enough? Am I drinking enough water? But I think what really stands out for me when I know that like I need to take some time for myself is when I start getting like distracted just doing like everyday tasks, like because I can be like so focused and so good in session, but then like driving home like and not thinking about anything and then all of a sudden I'm home, and so or like watching TV but not really watching it. It's like, okay, what am I doing? And then like I start to check in with myself.
Mhm.
But a lot of times like I notice like my anxiety and stuff in my body first. Like I have a really anxious stomach. And so I can tell like my body kind of gives me signals like, hey, like maybe do a
Mhm.
body scan and check in and see what's going on.
Mhm.
But it also helps because I do a lot of like body scan and meditation in my sessions, working with, the kiddos and adolescents on how to recognize it in their body has helped me learn to recognize it in my own body.
Mhm.
Definitely. Yeah. It's
Mhm.
you shared a lot right there.
Mhm.
That I can definitely agree with you on. My body will let me know real fast. I'm grateful to say in this moment that my body is letting me know in much kinder ways than I feel like it did in the past. And that I can say is because I'm trying to be better with myself. I would push myself to such an extreme sometimes that with the autoimmune disorders and diseases that I have, that it would land me at times in the hospital or being in the bed for, I would wish hours, but really days, and I would lose big chunks of my life because I just wasn't paying attention. I was pushing myself beyond what I needed to do, but because I was putting more weight on the tasks that needed to get done than on the doer of the task. Because, I would be like, well, this has to get done. So it's just going to have to get done. I just got to keep pushing myself. Um,
Mhm.
and then my skin would let me know I would get psoriasis patches and my bones would start hurting really bad. I would feel inflammation all throughout my body, headaches and migraines and all those type of things would start to come on and I would still be pushing through. It's like every alarm system would be going off. And I'd be like, yeah, but one more task. And I just cannot keep doing that as my age is getting bigger, as the numbers getting bigger, and as
Mm,
me wanting to be a better version of myself for me first,
mm,
I felt like I had to be the fixer for everything. And as we talked about our personal therapy, that's something for me that I'm working on is making sure that my needs are met before I'm trying to make sure everybody else's needs are met. And before I knew that was a thing, but I thought it was selfish to do that. That was just how I labeled it. And now I'm looking less at that being selfish, but more self-preserving. I just can't give when I am broken.
mm,
When my pitcher is empty and only has drops in it, I can't pour from that. Like, I need to make sure that there's a fill up that's happening for me, and that I'm pouring into my cup first, because then I can give the best of me to others. And that's always what I like, but I can't give the best of me when there's nothing of me to give. And so I'm happy to say that I am really looking more intentionally at what's going on and how I feel. Sleep still isn't where it needs to be, and there's some factors connected to that that I hope will change. But I'm trying to do more things that bring me joy. I used to be one that fills up from being around others more. Like, I'm as a extrovert, at least back then, I really charged up with doing fun things with people that I care about. And that still does matter to me. But I'm becoming more of an introverted extrovert, where having time with myself and my thoughts, quietly doing things just that I like, where I'm not having to talk to nobody or think or anything. Having my red wine and popcorn while I watch something on TV, it just really, brings me some joy. And so I'm trying to do more of that for myself.
mhm,
So
mm,
um finding finding that thing or those things that allow you to smile inside, and then hopefully, it comes out, is really important.
sure.
That's my hope for everybody. So, as we kind of come to a wrap up, we always want to say that these are our thoughts, again, as individuals, because we're human, but also as professionals as well, who are practicing as clinicians. And I like to point that out, that, we're we haven't mastered the art of any of the things that we have talked about for ourselves. And we are growing, we are flawed, we are imperfect, but we are trying. And I hope that our conversation today inspires the start of that, or pushes someone forward, or um, adjusts someone on their course to wanting to just kind of take care of their needs. So we hope that you have a wonderful day and that you continue to enjoy the journey. See you later.